Well, Brian, I'll tell you what they couldn't sell the other night in Savannah, Georgia.
What's that, Jim?
Well, see, I was waiting for you. Got to be snappier.
Well, I didn't expect that. You took me by
It's the Abbott and
surprise.
Costello thing. It's a give and take. I'll tell you what they couldn't sell in Savannah, Georgia last week. AEW Dynamite tickets. Now, was this they were in danger of having the lowest attendance ever, but then I think they had a late flurry of a few hundred tickets, and it's only the second worst ever? Is this what I'm hearing reported?
That sounds about right. I don't have anything in front of me. It was a few days ago, but WrestleTix was talking about it, and people were talking about it going into it. Just the ticket sales versus even tickets distributed, and then even that versus capacity.
Versus tickets handed out at homeless shelters around town. And to be fair, Savannah was always a hard town. It didn't draw for the Georgia territory. It didn't really draw for Crockett. It's a tough town. But we're covering this, by the way, the AEW Dynamite from January 24th. It's almost a week ago as we're talking about it. But to be completionists, and just because we have to make some notes. We're not going to go through this in granular detail, but there were a lot of things wrong. And we're going to tell them how to modify their behavior.
It was a rough week. There's a lot of really bad stories out there. We need something to have fun with, and that's what Dynamite's here for. AEW is to have fun with.
There you go. Fun. That's what the AEW fans like, is fun, right? They say Cornette never likes fun. Well, here's some fun. So Samoa Joe comes to the ring to do a promo, and not only are they chanting Joe, Joe, what there is of him there, but they're big cheers when he speaks. And again, this is not the fault of the heels. It's the fault of the booking and the bland, blasé, shitty, douchebaggy baby faces. And so Joe and Swerve, as we know, they're just as popular as can be. And as soon as Joe swears that anybody that faces him is going to be dealt with like Hook was last week, they play Hook music. And out he comes, and he speaks in an he looked like he was holding a microphone. Like, remember I said when I had that fucking staph infection, that big lump under my armpit on the angle with Wrestling 2 and Magnum TA? He had the microphone up, way up over his elbow, was up in the sky. And he said, last week, you won, I lost. And then they shake hands, and Hook.
Me, Hook. You, Joe.
Well, yeah, it was like Cheetah trying to pull Tarzan into a hug, because when Hook tried to pull him in, really, Joe's gravitational pull pulled Hook in. And Hook says to Joe, I don't know when or where, but I will see you again. And from the crowd, there was a cacophony of nothing, no reaction. And Joe said, I bet you will. Now, security, get this unworthy bum out of my ring. And Joe actually gets out of the ring for Hook. And they have three obvious indie wrestlers come in and take Hook's suplexes. And then so he can leave. And Joe just goes to the desk and sits down for color. This was somebody's idea.
I forgot about the ending there.
Yes. It was somebody's idea. Well, we got to do something for Hook because he lost. What the fuck? It's the world champion in the goddamn ring. And he doesn't need to be given a warning by, again, an upcoming young preliminary fellow, and then step out of the ring while the guy, obviously there are tomato cans being thrown at him so he can give these people these moves. It was so phony. It didn't do anybody any good.
It was surprisingly amateur and bad, considering Joe was involved. But again, what can you do when, what was the purpose of it? If anyone comes out here, I'm going to deal with them like I did Hook. Well, here's Hook. All right, young man, you're a decent young man. I'll see you again, I'm sure. Now get him out of here. And then that's the end of Hook. It was such a puzzling.
To be fair, Joe, if this was what they all had to do, Joe was as good at whatever he did as you could be. But yeah, they're afraid to damage any of the talent's feelings, apparently. So they want to give them a.
There was a run on concessions. All 12 people went during this segment.
But then the first match began. We're 7 minutes into the program, and it's Hangnail Page against Penthouse. And I have just a few observations, and we're going to talk about this finish, which was insane. At times, it was so quiet in the arena, not only during this match, but even later on, even worse, that you could hear the ropes quiver. And when they hit the ropes, you'd hear. And both guys, they do the same shit that they always do, and it wasn't that good the first 1,000 times that we saw it. And they do some more of it, and Page is boring and Penthouse is sloppy. So, and they hit each other hard over and over again while not selling it. And then 15 minutes into the show, they went to a break. So this would not end. So then they did everything they ever did in the match before, but they did it on the apron. And then the finish was Page gives Penthouse the dead eye, where he drops the guy head first over his back. Right, Brian? The dead eye.
Right.
He gives him the dead eye on the apron of the ring. And Penthouse rolled off the apron and didn't even go down, stood up on his feet, rolling off the apron so that he could stand there and Page could hit the blind moonsault off the top rope backwards on top of him, where he caught him, right? And then Page rolls the guy in the ring and goes for the buckshot lariat, and Penthouse ducked it. He's taken a finish on the apron on his head and still didn't leave his feet. Then he was hit by a flipping 230-pound man off the top rope. And when he's thrown into the ring, he can duck the fucking finish. And then when he ducked it, Page clotheslined him again, went back out to the apron, and did another buckshot, and this time he hit it 1, 2, 3. Does that sound like it made any fucking sense?
No.
I'm glad you concur.
It's the same match these guys have always had there. I mean, these guys are going back to the beginning. They've been there since day one. The only difference now is a thicker mustache. And the crowd was dead. I mean, sometimes you'd hear them react to the theme music and you'd be like, okay, they're alive, they're there. And then they were gone. And with AEW, you never know if it's just a general audio issue because of production, or if it's just a dead crowd and it was a small crowd.
I thought it might actually be carbon monoxide.
Well, it was a small crowd and they didn't react to a lot of this stuff.
Well, anyway, 23 minutes into the show, that was over with. They brought Officer Barbrady back, who was in the back stopping Nicholas and Matthew in the hallway, the Buckaroos, their Christian names. They're still dressing like, fucking, what are they dressing like? Who dresses like that? Was Don Johnson and the other guy in Miami Vice, was that the model for this?
Is that what they think executives are supposed to dress like? Like arrogant executives that they're trying to pretend that they pretend that they aren't so they can pretend they're a different version of whatever this is?
Well, they're dressed like uterine cleansing devices. And he asked them, he says, last week your statement or whatever created a ton of buzz. I thought it was more like crickets, but apparently they call it buzz these days. So what is your first plan of action as executives in AEW? That is the question that their own representative, who's been there since the start, asked the EVPs that have been there since the start. What is your first plan of action as executives? They've been there, they've been EVPs.
And referred to it on TV as such.
Yes. And how is it supposed to help AEW to have fans think that these douche nozzles are running things? And no normal person that just would watch this TV show would understand what the fuck's going on. And their blistering promo is that backstage morale is through the roof since they've been back, and they blister Top Flight for being late when Top Flight had already been there and they just showed up. And that was it. They're getting paid 7 figures a year to show up and do this.
So bad. Of all the ways to bring these guys back and try to rehab them, they went with another bad comedy run. Terrible.
They went into cocaine rehab by switching to fucking fentanyl. And then Trent with Muffin Top and Pockets had a match with Wardlow, who was with Taven and Bennett and Roddy and Cole. And I invoked the Puddin' Gang rule. But when that was over with, Brian, have we used the term, or do most people know what a cover pitch is? Or should I explain it?
Explain it.
Well, the cover pitch, and JR used to love to write these in the format because he hated constant on cameras with the announcers. He'd rather, have more excitement and pageantry for a 15-second deal. So he would format, but a cover pitch is when they go to a beauty shot of the arena, or the fans screaming, or people holding up signs, or whatever the case, and the announcers over that will say, and last week you'll remember that it was a fateful night when the house exploded and little Jimmy was trapped in the well. And that's a cover pitch. And then you pitch to whatever that is, and boom. They did a 55 seconds. They're supposed to be like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, right? Because these shots get old visually quick. They did a 55-second cover pitch with a shot of the ceiling of the arena and the lighting grid. Because they had no beauty shots of the building. It was so sparsely populated, and the crowd was sitting there cruising on Lake Havasoma. And so they had, because Tony can't understand that less is more on these billboards, they scream all the matches you're going to see on all these fucking shows that nobody cares about. And Yuji Nagata's going to wrestle somebody Friday night. And then the this and that and the other thing. And it just endless graphics with a cover pitch of the fucking ceiling for almost 1 minute. And then they went to a package with Edge and Minoru Suzuki, who was this particular episode's TV main event, trying to make anybody care about that. And oh boy, howdy. And then they went back to the ceiling. They had to go back to the ceiling to go to a promo with Deonna Purrazzo on the stage. So they shot more of this building than they did the fucking ring.
The problem is the fans that were there, and there weren't many, were all shoved together, and you couldn't even film them because they were all bored. So the fans that were there all had their hands on their knee and on their chin, just sitting there like, what's next? You couldn't film that. The next best shot was the ceiling.
Yes, the ceiling. I remember one time on a Smoky Mountain Wrestling TV taping, when we literally only had like 216 people there, we shot a turnbuckle for the bumpers and the cover pitches.
That works better than the ceiling.
Well, yes, but
no one said, hey guys, why are we still on the shot of the ceiling?
Because it was so beautiful. They were probably like, where else you want me to go? You pick it, find something, I'll take it. I can hear that chatter in the truck. So anyway, speaking of going somewhere else, we could take that shot. They did a sit-down interview on the stage with Renee Moxley Good in between Deonna Purrazzo and Toni Storm with her cohorts Luther and Mariah May. And the split screen was the Deonna side was in color and the Toni Storm side was in black and white. And they're literally on the same stage. They've taken it so far, it's ridiculous. And the upshot of this thing was talking about their background, where apparently Toni Storm was normal and not a mental incompetent, and they used to live together and train together, and they showed matching amateur-looking tattoos on their ankles. It may have been a prison fucking tattoo situation. And Toni Storm told Deonna to blow the tattoo out of your butthole. Whereupon Deonna Purrazzo threw her shoe at Toni Storm and then got a Fujiwara armbar on her on the stage while Mariah May saves the day and Deonna kicks Luther in the face and the heels run off. And Jesus, Mary and Joseph. What the fuck? Explain this one to me, Lucy.
I can't explain it. The black and white split screen thing was so stupid. That's when you're taking, like you said, it was too far the other day when they were just going back and forth and they would switch from one camera to the other. This was completely ridiculous. And it's not good.
Even when Goldust finished his entrance and was wrestling, his side of the ring wasn't still in black and white, right?
And just the ridiculousness of Toni Storm again. If she was on a game show or Entertainment Tonight as some wacky person interviewing people on the red carpet, that'd be, I probably still wouldn't watch, but that'd be something. But for me, it's lost its charm in the wrestling show because at a time when people are trying to justify, the AEW women's fans are trying to justify the use of women and more of them on the show, the only one that's over it all is the one doing wacky comedy based off 1930s and 40s Hollywood. I don't know what to think of this. It's not for me. I didn't like it. I was thinking during this is going to hemorrhage viewers, but we'll talk about ratings later.
Wasn't Sunset Boulevard 1951?
You may be right.
So it's more modern than you're giving them credit for.
When did Sunset Boulevard's about earlier years, though, in a sense?
Well, no, Sunset Boulevard is at the current time, but about the woman who has lived through her glory years.
This is Toni Storm in the years before she ends up in the house.
Well, hopefully they don't have Eric von Stroheim come in as a technical consultant, because read up on him, kids. That would be wonderful. Anyway, so can somebody do a CAT scan on Jon Moxley? Did you see the promo or hear the promo that he did in the back where he was raving but it made
he makes no sense with anything he says.
I mean, the words go together as he's saying them, but the end of the sentence bears no resemblance to the subject that started it. If that kind of describes things. But after that, there was 30 more seconds of the ceiling. And then they went back to an interview with Johnny TV, John, how many names? Poor old John Hennigan, Johnny Nitro, Johnny everybody, and Taya Valkyrie, and they look great, and she can talk. She did most of this, and he can work. Why don't we at least see some of them? It couldn't be any worse.
Did you see that clip of them going around? There was something that happened on one of the shows. It must have been Ring of Honor because Dalton Castle was involved. And he was like yelling at Jerry Lynn. Maybe it was Collision. I don't even know. And Johnny Nitro comes out of his locker room, and he says, "I got a split." And he does a split, but I guess they tied like a rope around his foot. So as he does the split, someone from behind the curtain pulls it. So he's in a split form, just flying backwards. I don't even know how else to explain it. It was the most ridiculous thing. I watched it like 15 times in a row just to see who's pulling that rope. He's just flying back. And then Taya comes through the curtain, but I don't think she was doing it. You have to see this.
All righty then. So we're here at the all-important 9 o'clock hour, ladies and gentlemen, and we get Swerve Strickland, the most popular heel in the business today, with Prince Nana against Jeff Hardy with Matt Hardy. And boy, howdy.
In the Carolinas. Oh, no, Georgia, excuse me.
No, it was and Savannah's really... Savannah was an odd duck town. It wasn't really a Georgia town, as I said earlier, or a Crockett town. It sat there.
They both ran it at different points.
But nevertheless, this match needed to be run out of town instead of run in any town. It was sad to watch on everybody's part because Jeff is obviously not as young as he used to be or capable of doing the things or with the intensity or the speed or the precision. He can't do Swerve shit. He can hardly do his own shit anymore. And Swerve is trying to figure out how to get over, or at least turn in a good performance without doing a lot of his shit. And there was no life to it. The timing, the staggering, the missing, they were underwater. And then finally, again, Jeff gives Swerve the twist of fate on the metal stairs and then rolls him in the ring and goes for a swanton, and Swerve moves already after he's been given the goddamn Hardy's finish on a fucking set of metal stairs. And then Jeff misses the swanton and Swerve kicks him in the head and gets a 2 count. So Swerve, again, he took the finish on the stairs. Now he moves. Now he's up and running and kicking the fucking guy in the head in 15 seconds. And then Jeff gets some roll-ups, but Swerve hits some more. And a vertical suplex and a double stomp and 1, 2, 3. But this thing had to be almost 15 minutes bell to bell, and I don't know whether there's no life in the crowd because there's no life in this match or vice versa, or whether it just, god damn, did you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I watched this. It wasn't very good. The crowd certainly, at a certain point, just gave up. It was the wrong opponent for Swerve. They're trying to turn Jeff Hardy, or at least Jeff Hardy's trying to turn Jeff Hardy. I don't know. Which is really the only thing left to do at this point.
I don't think you can do that.
But no, Jeff Hardy, the other problem is, and again, we'll talk about the ratings later, to put Jeff Hardy in this match at the 9 o'clock hour, you have to think there's some value still in Jeff Hardy. I don't know if there is right now.
Well, and if there
when I say value,
is
to be in the 9 o'clock hour against one of the top guys in the company.
No, we're not saying he's completely valueless and should be banished to the land of misfit toys. We're saying ratings draw the Hardy magic of old, etc. But you can't turn Jeff heel because he can't talk well enough to piss people off, and people will remember what he's done in the past that a lot of people saw rather than what he's doing now that not a lot of people are seeing. And they will also feel sorry for him because he's obviously physically, not a spring chicken anymore. So I don't know. Not good, wasn't good, very, very not bad. Not good, bad. Whatever the fuck. Moving along. Next week, as a result of an argument between Hangnail and Swerve, they will choose each other's match, the pick your poison thing or whatever the case may be. So that we got that to look forward to for next week. And Thunder Rosa was back to wrestle Red Velvet.
Oh boy, did you watch this match? Please say you watched this match.
Well, I was captivated by Red Velvet, who has tights with a matching cooking apron. So I had to watch some of it. I swear to God, I heard 2 guys in the front row plotting on how to cheat on one of them's wife. It was a whispered conversation, but the microphones were picking it up because you were in a sound vacuum.
It was so quiet. It was awkwardly quiet.
It was like they were in a cave. The referee's instructions had an echo. And anyway, Thunder Rosa won the match, but when they panned the guests in the front row, and Brian, the past week's news aside as relates to the WWE, can you see a point in time where the WWE would be there for Raw or SmackDown and they would pan the fans in the front row and then introduce the barnstorming baseball team, the Savannah Bananas?
Well, anything could happen in WWE.
Well, it happened in AEW. That's the biggest celebrities they could get. Why do it at that point? Why introduce celebrities if the only ones you can get are the Savannah Bananas?
That women's match was pretty rough. Beyond the crowd being silent, they didn't work well together. At least I didn't think they did.
Well, and yeah, you got a lot of things working against them. So then Darby and Sting. Tony Schiavone's in the ring, brings him to the ring. He's good. And immediately Darby takes the microphone from Tony and he's completely useless and never referred to again. And Darby does the whole promo. And I'm not sure I understood a lot of it. He's like he's doing an essay question. What's it like to team with Sting and his impact on my career? Well, in 2015, when I heard he had to retire, I thought, what if it was me? What if my life's work was cut short? In 2015, Sting had been wrestling for 30 years. I'm not sure how short that's getting cut, right? He was in the prime of his life. And they insert a shot of this interview of the Buckaroos back in their, suits watching on the monitor. But Darby rambled. He said, the rankings are back and we're undefeated. So why not win the tag team championship before you retire? Because you still got it. And actually, the only thing the fans really reacted to here was they would chant, you still got it, for Sting. But then Sting just said, yeah, I'm all in. That's the only, he said, yes, we should. I'll end my career as AEW tag team champion. I'm all in. And they left.
It's really weird, wasn't it?
And then,
because even like, I'm all in. He's all into what? Of course, they're going to have a match? What are they talking about?
Well, that's the thing. And again, they put the belts on Starks and Big Bill, and wherever that fucking thing is gone, suddenly they've decided that Darby and Sting should be the tag team champions going into Sting's retirement match against the Buckaroos. But the Buckaroos can't win because that would be the ultimate level of douchebaggery for them to win the belts that they don't deserve in the Legends last match, even if Sting's, I want to put them over on the way out. Fuck you. You're an icon. We're not going to shit on the people like that. Too soon? We're not going to make the people unhappy like that. So I don't know what the fuck they're thinking here. And then they go to the back and Starks and Big Bill accept their challenge. And Big Bill's promo was better than Ricky Starks's. I think Starks has just checked out until he can take up residence in Cody's spare room.
And they're actually one of the few things in AEW that works is Starks and Big Bill.
Yeah, at first it was a thrown together thing and it kind of got it over.
So if they drop the belt to Darby and Sting, which you would think would be the conclusion, because why else do this unless it's to set up them being embarrassed going into the match with the Young Bucks. But if they're going to win the tag titles, that means your two options are the titles become vacant because Sting and Darby retire Sting retires as tag team champion during that match, or the Bucks beat Sting and Darby in Sting's final match. Which I don't know how AEW fans will react to that.
You know what? I guarantee you that somebody, maybe the Bucks, has sold Tony Khan. Oh, can you imagine how much heat we'll have if we beat Sting and ruin his retirement match ceremony, whatever the fuck, and win the belts for the. Yeah, they'll have all the wrong kind of heat. And it'll be like, I don't want to watch this shit anymore kind of heat. If they take the piss out of that big moment. That's the only thing that has sold tickets for anything that they're doing until Wembley in fucking August or whenever.
And it sold all those tickets before the Bucks were attached to the main event.
Yes, a very Hogan-esque, reminiscent of the Georgia Dome. So, the World Six-Man Tag Team Championship was on the line with the Nana's Rejects, the guys he's got that aren't over, Brian Cage, Tia Leone, and Bishop Khan. And they wrestled the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, who were accompanied by the Gang Bang Gang, because we now have the super group called the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. Jay White and the Guns have joined. So you got 3 baby faces and 3 heels, and Caster rapped for the first time in months that I've heard. They cooled them off quick. And I didn't pay attention to any of this because it was all these fucking idiots on the other side I don't care about. What happened?
The rap was good. It was the best rap in a while. Sounded good. He sounded good out there. I didn't watch the match.
Okay. Now we come to our main event of the evening. Edge versus Minoru Suzuki. By absolutely unpopular demand of no one. Who was this a rib on? Are they ribbing Edge? Are they ribbing the viewers?
It was a gift for Edge. He gets to work with this guy one time before he retires.
What the fuck? Why would he want to have a bad match before he retires? He looks ridiculous. I know he's a mixed martial arts legend, but the average people watching TBS on a Wednesday night couldn't give a shit and are looking at an old, sloppy looking, pale Japanese guy with toothpick legs doing fake looking shit.
Slowly at times.
Yes. And they rang the bell at 7 minutes till 10, so I knew I wasn't going to see the finish. But nevertheless, I'll tell you what I did see. You're never going to guess, ladies and gentlemen, how they started this thing, trading forearms that nobody sold. I thought, who would this match help? Because Suzuki drops in ever so often to have fake-looking bad matches where they do the same thing every time. And he's obviously not going to beat Edge here. Edge does not need this win. You mean to tell me it makes Edge more valuable to AEW to beat this fucking guy on TV? And then who's the babyface? Because Suzuki just does the same shit and people cheer for him for whatever reason that the AEW fans cheer for any of these decrepit, subpar performers. And Suzuki won the forearm exchange twice, dropped Edge before Suzuki even went to a knee. And I'm right, who's the star? Who are they pushing here? And then Suzuki gets a front face lock on Edge, and Edge pushes him through the barricade on the floor, and they lay there, and the arena is deathly quiet, and the handheld camera pans up, and there's empty seats in the front row. And then once they roll in and beat the 9 count that took about a minute and a half, they get in the middle of the ring again and trade 21 fake forearms and real face slaps. Now, here's the thing. You can hit somebody fairly stiff with a goddamn forearm and not hurt them. But a slap is a fucking slap. So they're faking the forearms and they're really slapping each other in the face. And then they did a double knockout on simultaneous face slaps. And we were 4 minutes into this thing, and I couldn't wait for it to be over with. And they were down again for about another minute, and they got up, and they started trading forearms. And finally, Edge hit his implant DDT, which, again, a combination of Suzuki being almost immobile and everybody treating him like he's a Fabergé egg, it looked like shit. And that was the point where my DVR froze because it was the top of the hour and the show was supposed to be over with. How much longer did this bullshit go on?
The bullshit went on for another 5 minutes.
Oh. Hopefully Edge won.
Edge won. Edge finally won.
Well, that was that. Dynamite. Did anybody watch this thing?
Well, I'm dropping stuff all over the place here. Let's talk about the ratings this week, Jim.
Talk about dropping.
Well, talking about dropping, let's talk about the AEW Dynamite ratings for this past week, January 24th, 8 to 10:05 p.m. AEW Dynamite was watched on average by 837,000 viewers.
The same people, the same numbers. But the only question is, how high do they start and how low do they go? Limbo, limbo.
Well, quarter one, 8 to 8:15 p.m. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Samoa Joe's live confrontation with Hook, leading to him going to commentary for Penta El Zero Miedo versus Adam Page. 1,007,000 viewers.
That was almost identical to last week, wasn't it?
Well, The Big Bang Theory has a good run of shows going right now.
Yeah,
that's the Big Bang.
I mean,
listen, it's every week now because I've been paying attention to it. The first minute of Dynamite, technically 8 to 8:01, is the Big Bang Theory ending.
Yeah.
So anyone who's watching that show is staying, and that's boosting that number for that first quarter every week.
Quarter two.
8:15 to 8:30 p.m., the continuation of Hangman versus Penta with picture-in-picture, Orange Cassidy backstage promo, and an ad break, 907,000 viewers.
So right off the bat, there goes 100,000. Now it's not as bad a drop as normal.
Well, quarter three, Jim, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The Young Bucks backstage promo. Trent Beretta versus Wardlow with picture-in-picture. The post-match with Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and the Undisputed Kingdom, followed by an Adam Copeland video. 903,000 viewers.
That's a gift that they only lost 4,000 on that. I mean, the fans said, we want a who's who of wrestling, and they gave them a who's that.
Well, the Who's That continues into quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The Deonna Purrazzo Toni Storm ramp promo / angle, an ad break, the Johnny TV Taya Valkyrie backstage promo, and that's it. 841,000 viewers.
Ouch. Another 62,000. So now we are 266,000 down from our starting point halfway through the show. That's not a good sign.
Well, we're at the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m., quarter five. Jeff Hardy versus Swerve Strickland with picture-in-picture and an ad break. 793,000 viewers.
Oh, the Hardy effect worked in reverse. That's 48,000 more people. That's
48,000 more people.
48,000 more viewers left from to quarter five than quarter four.
You mean less viewers?
Well, 48,000 more departed. They left. They bailed. They got the fuck out of Dodge, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
There were 48,000 more survivors that escaped.
All right, well, let's see who else escapes. We'll go to quarter six, 9:15.
Who else gets to the top of the bottom of the Poseidon Adventure?
Before traffic gets bad in Savannah, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Quarter six. The Adam Page Swerve Strickland backstage angle, and Thunder Rosa versus Red Velvet with picture-in-picture. 754,000 viewers.
Ouch, and that was all in that 15 minutes. No wonder. There goes another 39,000. Yes, 39,000.
We go to quarter seven, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Darby Allen and Sting live promo, an ad break, Billy Gunn and the Acclaim versus the Mogul Embassy with picture-in-picture, 729,000 viewers.
All right, now we are at the low point of the show and 278,000 down from the start of the program.
And finally, quarter eight, and we have an overrun too.
Oh boy.
Quarter eight, 9:45 to 10 p.m. The continuation of the previous six-man tag match. Adam Copeland versus Minoru Suzuki. 737,000 viewers. 5-minute overrun. The continuation of the match. No commercials, by the way. And then an Adam Copeland live promo. 705,000 viewers.
Oh my God. So they got 8,000 people in the last quarter for the main event of the show and with Edge. And then the overrun always does better than quarter eight because you get all the people that were already watching plus the people who were tuning in for the next program. This is the first time I can ever remember. They lost 32,000 people in the overrun.
A lot of it's the trend of the show and what was interesting people and what wasn't. A lot of it, I think, unfortunately, a lot of the overruns we see are with people that are featured regularly on this TV show. Edge versus Minoru Suzuki may not be what holds an audience, even the key demo.
Well, I mean, if you looked at the first 7 minutes of it, you sure didn't want to see any more of it. But I figured for most people that were already there by that point, they'd stick it out. But, so they actually were down 302,000 viewers from the start of the program, and 302,000. That means basically they lost 30%. They started with 1 million and they ended up with 700,000, let's say. So they lost 30% of the audience from the start to finish.
Well, that was Dynamite. That was Tony's show, and this is your show.